So hello, welcome everyone into today's Qesher presentation. It's really nice to have you all here. My name is Dora. I'm one of the organizers, and I'm joining you from Budapest, from Hungary. And you can also find here Sebastian. It's the two of us who run these events, who started this project. I know that many of you know us, and thank you once again for joining for another event. And just for those of you who are joining us for the first time, I just want to say a couple of words about what we do. So, our project is named Qesher. We started it 5.5 years ago, and we decided to name it Qesher, which means connection in Hebrew, because we find it a very powerful way to connect to each other, to different Jewish communities from around the world by learning about each other's history and culture and present day situation. And we feel like that's essential for creating this connection. So those of you who regularly join us, you know that most often our events are about a specific city's or country's Jewish heritage. And we also have a book club series, which is what we're going to do also today. So we are very happy to have here Beejy Barhany, who is going to be our author of the day. She is the author of Gursha, Timeless Recipes for Modern Kitchens from Ethiopia, Israel, Harlem, and Beyond, a cookbook. So this is the name of the book that we are introducing today. And I'll also say a few words about BJ, just so you know who is here with us. She's an Ethiopian born and Israeli raised chef and activist who has called Harlem home for the past 20 years. A proud Ethiopian, a proud Jew, and a proud Black woman, she celebrates her vast heritage through the food and events at Tsion Café and loves sharing this rich culture with her community. She's also the founder of the Beta Israel of North America Cultural Foundation, or BINA, a nonprofit that showcases the culture of Ethiopian Jews and all Jews of color. By partnering with local organizations to share food, art, music, and discussion, BINA empowers others to celebrate Jewish diversity. So thank you, BJ, so much for accepting our invitation and for being here with us. So first of all, I just like to ask you, can you please speak a bit about your book? What does Gursha mean, and how did this book come to be, and what is it like? Could you introduce us a little bit?
Sure. Shalom, everybody, and thank you for having me here today and talk about introduce Gursha. Gursha is a beautiful tradition from Ethiopia, actually feeding one another to showcase love, respect, and friendship. You literally take a morsel of food. We'll talk about what, Ethiopian food is all about sharing and eating together. But you take a morsel of food and you feed the person next to you, across you, or whomever come to visit you in your household. That show demonstrating nourishment, respect, and understanding. And I wanted to bring that to every person that might have bought the book to nourish them with the history, tradition of Ethiopian Jewry. I wanted to write Gursha because it was very important that we preserve the stories, tradition, recipes of Ethiopian Jews. It came to the market on April 1st of this year. And it's over 100 recipes, but it's more than recipes. It's about the tradition, history, interaction with new ingredients, and resilience and being resourceful in a different country. What I mean by that is, for example, when Ethiopian Jews first immigrated to Israel, there was no access to teff. Teff is the main ingredient in making injera bread, is the flat bread. So for the first 20 years, for example, Ethiopian Jews had to work out with wheat flour, corn flour, and other type of flour because they had no access. So this is the different stories of resourcefulness that I wanted to highlight as well as we progress through a modern era and all of that stuff. So that's Gursha as a whole. Gursha, nourishing one bite at a time.
That's really wonderful. And could you speak to us a little bit about what Ethiopian food is like? what if for those who don't know anything about Ethiopian food, could you share like what are the important dishes, ingredients? How should we imagine it?
I'm curious to know how many people had Ethiopian food before. Just a quick survey. Two, one. But
I
anyway, just
actually
to give
have.
you, okay. Nice. So you have an idea what I'm talking about. So Ethiopian cuisine is all about sharing, communal eating, and feeding one another. And of course, using your hands as utensils to pick up the food and feed yourself or feed others. The main on the plate will be the injera bread, which is the traditional flat bread called injera. And on it, you put the different stews. It's going from chickpeas to chicken to collards to cabbage, many different array of rainbow of colors. You put it on the tray, on it, on the injera, and with the injera, you take a piece and you pick up the different stews. But what I can say to Ethiopian food as a whole is very diverse, nutritious, and ancient. Using a lot of ancient grains. I just spoke about teff that is packed with nutrient and is gluten free and all of that stuff. And using a lot of legumes as well, like lentil and chickpeas, biblical items that Ethiopian Jews utilize even today. For one thing, I can tell you one of the comfort Ethiopian Jewish cuisine, for example, is the red lentil stew, misir wet, and it's very much biblical than anything else because we know in the book of I think it was Genesis when Esau coming hungry from the field and Jacob is making this red lentil stew and Esau smelling this delicious aroma of different spices with the red lentil. And here Esau asking Jacob, may I have from that delicious red stew? Telling me adoma ze. And Jacob say, what is it there for me? Why would I give you for my food that I'm cooking? And Esau said, I'm going to give you my birthright. So I always say that particular red lentil that Jacob made must be delicious, that somebody willing to give up their birthright for. So, and Ethiopian Jews is very much one of the comfort food that we use and preserving ancient tradition and recipe that been passing from generation to generation.
Thank you so much. And I love how it really illustrates this deep connection to the ancient Jewish roots. And I when I was reading the stories in your book, I think that really comes across that it's everywhere. It's in the food and it's in also in other traditions. And I think I mean, you have many very powerful stories in the book, and I'll get to that later. But could you share with us about your story? Like, how did you what you remember from Ethiopia and then the journey you took to Israel and then eventually now you're in New York.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm gonna tell you my whole life story, we'll be here for the next week. But anyway, I'll make it brief and short. I was born to a very ancient Ethiopian Jewish community in the northern part of Tigray, where preserving Jewish tradition was very much within it for thousands of years. And always the yearning for the return to the promised land and rebuilding the temple was in the mind of my family and the whole village. Lived peacefully, harmoniously, very, I would say, delicious way of living. When I say that is the anticipation for Shabbat within my household, the Jewish community in Tigray, will start at Thursday afternoon, where mothers and aunties and cousins will start sifting flour to make dabo to welcome Shabbat. That kind of environment, the excitement to welcome Shabbat, I grew up in. And me as a child, smelling the different aromas and stews in preparation for Shabbat, so they can stop ceasing of any labor on Friday afternoon. They would just be worried about going to the mikveh or the river in order to purify and welcome Shabbat. That's the environment I grew up in. Eventually, until the point where They were receiving different correspondence from Israel, from family members that emigrated to Israel in the early 60s, 50s, that it's time to make Aliyah, the journey, the Exodus to the Promised Land. And then, of course, as a young kid, I was about 4 years old. One night, I've been told that we're leaving, we're going to Jerusalem. For 4 years old, it was kind of, in the middle of the night, why, you're not that happy. But to my understanding now as an adult, the elders within the community been arranging and planning this trip for months, if not more, in order to have a safe journey. They hire different guides and so forth, even network with different Jewish communities throughout the road, going from Ethiopia to Sudan to supply them with dry ingredients, if it's flour, sugar, because it was a journey of, I would say, almost a month going from Ethiopia to Sudan. It was not easy, very treacherous in a way, almost like the way the Israelite did from Egypt to Israel. It took them 40 years, 400 years, if not more, and us about a month plus. But the sacrifice, the determination was within the community. They believed that we all should be in Jerusalem and among our brothers and sisters in the land of honey and milk. That's the whole anticipation as a whole. The whole journey, I would say, it took us almost 3 years. 1980, leaving Ethiopia in 1980, and eventually we had to live in Sudan for about almost 2 years plus. And we drove from the final days, I would say, leaving Sudan to Uganda, Kenya, and eventually making it to Israel was, I would say, about 3 years. That kind of, was a very exciting moment for my community, my parents, to finally make the Aliyah, which was, in a way, fulfilling a prophecy. When we finally made it in Israel, it wasn't really the land of honey and milk. We face different challenges, which will probably you have a lot of question about it later on. But yet, I would say the dedication, no matter what, my immediate family and the rest of the community believe that this is where we're supposed to be. This is home.
And then how was your life in Israel and how did you make it to New York eventually?
Yeah, like a typical child that growing up in Israel, you want to do everything Israeli as possible, right? Even not wanting to associate yourself with Ethiopian food. I wanted to eat only falafel and schnitzel and whatever. I didn't want to touch injera, or it was too spicy, it was too fermenty. Keep me away from it. Until to the point where I wanted to live in a kibbutz and work the land. And of course, a couple of years later on, like a typical Israeli citizen, you have to go serve in the army. After the service, what a typical Israeli child do? You go wander the world. You travel with a backpack. So I came to New York. That was my first stop in the U.S. And I loved what I saw, and I wanted to be part of it. I continued my journey to South and Central America, even managed to do the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu. It was incredible journey in comparison to my journey from Ethiopia to Israel. Nonetheless, I travel self-fulfillment in kind of spiritual journey in a way. Um, and then went back to Israel, didn't really find myself. After I saw all of this for a whole year, I said, okay, I think New York is calling me. And I came back in the early 2000s to New York to look for a community belonging. Um, I didn't really find it. And that happened, it's funny enough, I'll tell you a story. Like a typical Jew, wanted to go to a synagogue on a Friday night, and I decided I wanted to go with my friends to a synagogue. So here we go. and there was a typical Karen that will ask us, "Are you babysitting or you for any particular family?" So, and that kind of, was very much, I don't know, disheartening or disappointing to see that here you come to a synagogue and then this is another person asking you of your Jewishness. And then we basically said, you know what, we have to resolve the problem. It's a lot of ignorance and entitlement. We should have an organization where we can educate a little bit about the diversity and inclusion and history. There are many type of Jews throughout the world. That it comes from. There are Jews from Ethiopia. There are Jews in Yemen, Jews in India, Jews in China, Jews in Nigeria, Jews in South Africa. So let's not just be so boxed in and believing that we are the only one or what have you. So that kind of led to starting Bina Cultural Foundation. As you may know, Bina Vadat, to provide knowledge and understanding of Jewish diversity and inclusion. And we have done that for almost 18 years by showcasing Shabbat dinners, film festival and dialogue and panel discussion and many ways to increase on the awareness of diversity, right? So we don't encounter one of those questions ever and over again. I think somewhat that did trickle in. It worked. And I would say in comparison to the early 2000s to now, the openness and acceptance of people is a lot more positive than anything else. And even the wanting to know about the Ethiopian Jewish heritage or tradition and even wanting to know what is Ethiopian Jewish food. So which that led to opening of Tsion Café. A lot of people will ask, so what is Ethiopian Jewish food? And I said, okay, we will definitely can provide that as well. So I opened Tsion Café about 11 years ago. To provide a space where everybody can come, engage, break bread together, and learn about one another without any judgment or what have you. And from there, I think it kind of open to different groups, not only Jewish. We invite Muslim, Christian, anybody that want to come and interact and learn what is Jewish, Ethiopian, Israeli food, or any Jews of color or African food as a whole. Because when you come to Tsion Cafe, you will find food like jollof rice, which is very much West African than anything else. But there are Jews in Nigeria and Ghana. So it was very important for me to include it in the menu. Or having malawa, which is very much more Yemenite than anything else. I wanted to include that. Or having faba bean, food, which is native to many Mediterranean countries, and one food that I ate during my time in Sudan. So it's array of food, of Jewish diaspora food than anything else. So that's my journey. It's a long journey. Of course, there is more information if you are hoping or willing to purchase the book. That will be a great help in order to uh, so I can continue writing and bringing more information about the rich history of Ethiopian Jews. And just for you to know, Gursha is actually the first Ethiopian Jewish cookbook published by American publisher. Not only that, in America, and I know there's some in Europe or what have you, and specifically Gursha focusing on the story of Ethiopian Jewry. So in order for many more to come, we need all of you to purchase and support and give it as a gift for Hanukkah or what have you. So that's the story of my migration to the new promised land.
Thank you. And yes, I can definitely agree that reading the stories in your book really do give a big understanding and a much deeper knowledge of Ethiopian culture, which I'm still going to ask you a little bit about. So even listening today, you'll have a little teaser, but it's definitely a deeper dive if you buy the book and read it. So I wanted to ask you about Sigd. When many months ago we met you for the first time online, we kind of chose the date of this talk, thinking like, oh, let's put this talk on the like near the holiday of Sigd, which is a very unique Ethiopian Jewish holiday. Could you tell us about what this holiday is about, and if there is any food related or any other tradition that we should know about?
Like a typical Jew, food is always there. You cannot do any event or celebration without food unless you're fasting. Anyway, Sigd is a very sacred Ethiopian Jewish holiday that been preserved by the Ethiopian Jewry for almost 3,000 years. And is that is a day of giving thanks, renewing the covenant with God, and as well, I would say, and remembrance of the giving of the Torah to the people of Israel, right? So overall, it's always falling 50 days after Yom Kippur. You can count 7 weeks after Yom Kippur. And it so happened this year, it fell on November 20th this year. And so you missed it. What is it? Today we are not 5 days ago. It happens. So I told you I have construction going
That's all
on.
right. Don't
Did you
worry.
hear the noise? Anyway, so um, so it happened in November 20th, this last week, and is very sacred. As I said, is actually going back to the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, where we were exiled in Babylon. So that was the first Sigd held by Ezra and Nehemiah for the return to Jerusalem and building the temple, right? What happened? Ezra and Nehemiah led his people. They came to Jerusalem, but many of, for Ethiopian Jews specifically, that didn't happen. A lot of people still stay in the diaspora, and we hold on tight to that particular holiday for almost 3,000 years. We didn't let it go because we were not fully returned to Jerusalem, right? So when we finally make it to Israel, a lot of the elders said, okay, we are in Jerusalem, so what's the use? We're not in exile anymore. And they come to the conclusion that there is a need for this holiday because there is no unification among us, Am Israel, and a lot of people are still in the diaspora, and we are still waiting to rebuild the temple. So it's relevant somewhat. So in year 2008, the state of Israel recognized it as a national holiday, where majority of the Ethiopian Jewish community will go to Jerusalem, Armon Naziv or Kotel, and read from the book of Ezra, Nehemiah, Exodus, Psalms, and what have you. During all of that, the first half of the day, usually people are fasting, right? Fasting and asking for forgiveness, correct? And usually back in Ethiopia, whenever people will go up to that high top mountain, resembling Mount Sinai, they will carry something like a piece of rock or what have you. And then when they reach the summit, they will throw that rock down to symbolize I am kind of letting go or whatever sin, misunderstanding, miscommunication I had with my immediate family or my neighbor. I want to start anew. I want to start a clean slate, something like that. So it's kind of mini Yom Kippur in a way, right? And then, of course, on the top of the mountain, as I indicated, there are the different chapters in Ge'ez. And then later on, I would say midday, what, at 3, 4 p.m., people will come down from the mountain and they will have a wonderful feast. First, of course, they will bless on the dabo, which is our traditional bread to do the blessing on. You will have a honey wine. You will have a lamb, a chicken, is a whole feast. Oh, and whatever vegetable is seasonal. I would say a lot of collard greens, a lot of cabbage, a lot of pumpkin and stuff like that. A delicious feast. And I like this particular holiday now is relevant to us as Jews that scattered throughout the diaspora, adopting this, hopefully, hoping for the unification, bring unity among us. And I think if every family will adopt a particular dish to honor Ethiopian Jewish tradition, if it's making red lentil or you want to make a cabbage, carrots, and potato stew or something of that nature, it just will bring us all close together as Jews that all over the world. And it's not only Ethiopian Jewish holiday, it's very much Jewish holiday as a whole. It so happened that Ethiopian Jews hold on tight to it and preserved it, and is a gift to the Jewish around the world. So don't be, oh, I don't know what to do. Please adapt it to your household. Claim it and celebrate it. The only way for us to come unified and powerful and strong as a people, as a nation, is when we embrace one another of our different celebration, tradition, and what have you. So I encourage each one of you to try to learn more about SIGD and incorporate it within your household. Specifically, is always kind of falling around Thanksgiving. What a greater way to give thanks for our beautiful tradition and celebrate Jewish diversity.
Thank you so much. And it's so nice to hear how you encourage others to adopt it, like that you don't say that no, this is ours and this is our holiday, like that you I'm just saying that that was really nice to listen to. And I wanted to ask you a bit more about Jewish Ethiopian traditions, which you also speak about the book. So I obviously you're not gonna give now a whole array, but I thought that it was very interesting, for example, that you share that new mothers stay separate with their babies, with their newborn babies, and the whole community helps them out. So that's just an example that really stuck with me. So if you want to share either more about this or another Ethiopian Jewish custom that you feel that it would be important for people to know of.
Sure. There is many beautiful ancient tradition within the Ethiopian Jewish community. You mentioned, when a new mom giving birth, I believe is 80 days for a girl, 40 days for a boy, and it's actually it's from the Torah. It's nothing, we just hold on to it because we practice it. So when we first immigrated to Israel, and usually you have a special tent, a house, when you deliver or when you have your menstrual every month, there is a special place where you cleanse, you relax, and especially when you give birth, you reconnect with your newborn, and the whole community is taking part. They will feed you, they will take care of your family. And this way, whatever blues, postpartum you have, it's a good time to kind of let your body heal and reconnect with your child. It's a support mechanism, I would say. It's beautiful, it's within our tradition, but modern Judaism, is kind of different. It's really hard to do. You might need a couple of rooms within your household to do it, but halachally, you're not supposed to be in the same floor or something like that. For a lot of Ethiopian new moms or the elders, it was very difficult to adjust to this way of living. Living in the same household when you're giving birth or all of that stuff. But you learn to overcome the challenges and adjust to different way of behavior or whatever you call it. At the end of the day, you don't have much of options. I know many people in the first years of the Aliyah, uh, a lot of women that wanted, they ask for them to build a special place where they can, be away from their husband or something of that nature. Unfortunately, it didn't last. But yeah, I think every woman should empower herself and have those days to heal herself. It's a beautiful Jewish tradition. I'm sure a lot of you heard of the book, The Red Tent. So it's kind of, I think, touching upon those topics and what have you. So we need that. And of course, there is a lot of different tradition within the community that kind of lost. For example, I would say one thing that was shocking is, in Ethiopia, Friday night, Saturday, Shabbat was so strict. When we say strict, to the point where you do not tie a belt around your waist. It's considered a daily labor, a daily hustle, right? But yet, when we finally arrived to Israel, people are doing laundry, blasting their music, and what have you. So it was like, oh my God, those Jews here lost their ways in a way. You know what I mean? And yet, we've been asked about Jewishness and all of that stuff. So it's kind of, paradox, contradiction. Who is who to ask, or what is Jewish, why not? Because there is such an evolution and change for thousands of years. And yeah, there is many ways to practice and adhere to Jewish laws.
That's a very, very interesting point that you also mention and you speak more in detail about in the book, that you were asked if you're really Jewish, and actually the Ethiopian Jewish community is much more practicing than many Jews in Israel or in other places. So I think it's really good that you shared about this also here. And I think what is especially powerful in your book, and that really touched me, is the stories of people that you share. And you mentioned in the beginning that this book is about resilience, but really the stories you share is like even beyond resilience, or I don't know how to say, like they're really some of the personalities that you speak about. They have been through very difficult situations. And so I just wanted to ask, in whatever length you find it appropriate, but if you would like to maybe share one of these stories, and yeah, I'll ask that first.
There are many stories.
Many stories, and I think it's worth
Yeah.
reading the book and finding out about all of them.
So,
But
for
just as
example, one thing that I can share for sure, and is, we spoke about giving birth, right? My auntie Malka, for example, when we started our journey from Ethiopia to Sudan, we were about 300 villagers together making this journey. And apparently she was 9 months pregnant, right? And she ended up giving birth during the journey of this treacherous journey from Ethiopia to Sudan. Um, and imagine riding on a horse or sitting in a wagon, and on top of it, giving birth. And then within 20, 15 minutes, they rush her. Well, they had to cut whatever, the placenta, what have you. They say, yeah, we have to move on. You cannot relax. You cannot heal. They basically gave her, flaxseed honey to strengthen. There were a lot of ladies that they know the rituals and what have you. And she keep moving. She had to keep moving because otherwise it was a risk of, if we were caught by the Ethiopian authority, everybody will be executed. It was a matter of death or life. So that is for me a super wonder woman, specifically as myself went through the process of giving birth. I was in a hospital under epidural and all of that stuff. In comparison that, to fathom the strength. Can you imagine? 15 minutes, goodness. How in the world is it possible? Other than magical miracle, whatever she had, um, and continue on a journey. And she even managed to call her daughter Geula, redemption. These are the different heroes that I kind of, had to put their stories in the books for to preserve for many years, and to see the resilience and dedication of these ladies, mothers, aunties, and grandmas that I had to put on. Yeah, that's just one story of many.
Thank you for sharing that. And actually, that was going to be my next question that you do speak about maybe a couple of men, but most of the stories that you share, okay, that's a couple, are women. And if that was a conscious decision or what motivated you to share mostly the women's stories?
Yeah, I mean, I am not biased. I have two men there, of course, but it was a conscious decision. I wanted to highlight the strength, resilience, and resourcefulness of Ethiopian Jewish women that who preserved our tradition and maintained the household our community throughout different challenging times. Literally, they are the backbone of our cultural preservation. It was very important for me to interview them, and it's just a few out of many that I had, kind of shrink it. As I mentioned earlier, Malka, and going to my grandmother, my mom, and my aunt. There are so many of them that dedicated and preserved those delicious traditions. Hola.
Sorry.
So it was very important for me to interview them and share their stories. Yes.
And it's really, really powerful to read these stories. And I think another point sorry, we have someone who by accident unmuted. So I think the other, so I'll have two more questions and then we'll go into the Q&A of the audience. So I think one very important aspect that you speak about in the book is how Israel was very different from what you expected, and you encountered reactions that you didn't expect in advance, like that you were forced to take on new names or convert to Judaism. So if you could share a bit about this experience and also whether you think that has changed since that time.
Yeah, I mean, integration to Israeli society wasn't easy. As a whole, first of all, they never really encounter with people of color or Black people. They never met. But to the surprise, we were surprised to see white Jews too. So don't feel so special, eh? So vice versa. I think when we live in a communities that is homogenic to you, you think you're the only one. Vice versa, we were surprised to see them. They were surprised to see us, and it took a while for the fully integration with Israeli society. It wasn't easy, and of course, there was the question of our Jewishness. There was a lot of misleading of oh, we just were gonna go to the mikveh, and nobody really informed anybody that was part of conversion. You cannot do that until to the point where people find out, oh, this is actually literally conversion. Where am I converging from? To what? So it was really, I don't know how even to call it, very disappointing, yet you feel like betrayal somewhat as well, misled, you know. Uh, and then people basically stood the ground and say, we're not gonna go through a different process that we are requested to do and all of that stuff. I think arriving to Israel, one of the greatest mistakes that happened as a whole was putting all newcomers in absorption centers, right? It's trailers far away from everybody, rather than, in order to help for better integration, putting it all over the place. So when you put a community, one place is kind of alienating one another. I think that kind of created a distance, which is unfortunate. But I think, it's been almost 30, 45 years ago. Uh, a lot of mistakes I hope we can learn from. And the thing I can ask of everybody as a whole is, yeah, people do mistakes. Let's acknowledge the mistakes, and to learn and accept and celebrate each individual or any Jewish community throughout the world. Because whatever happened. I think we should thrive to create a better unified Jewish world, because we are not that many. Let's embrace one another. And yeah, that's the only thing I can say. We all have a lot to learn. There is a lot of divide among us. If it's calling Ashkenazi, Sfaradi, Mizrahi, this. We all Jews. We just have different complexion, different practices, and I think we should respect one another regardless. It's like having an orchestra, right? You have the saxophone player, the piano player. It's not all the same, but we create this beautiful harmony. So let's create that particular unique harmony by respecting, welcoming, and accepting each individual in order to create this beautiful music as a Jewish world. How's that?
That is beautiful. I think we're gonna have to write down your words and put that on the Qesher page. So I think that was a beautiful way to end. So I'm not gonna. My last question was gonna be more of a practical one that I know that many people are joining us from New York and from that area, and maybe many people go to New York at some point. If you want to share a bit like how they can find Tsion Café or what to expect in Tsion Café, or what is the if you want to share a bit about the cafe.
Oh, sure. Tsion Café, Tsion is Jerusalem. Tsion is always in my heart, no matter where I am. Even though I'm in the West, my heart is always in the East. That's Tsion. I decided to call it Tsion because this is what I am. This is who I am. And if you are not in Tsion, Jerusalem, you're more than welcome here at Tsion in Harlem to celebrate Jewish diversity and inclusion. It so happened to be this is a place where, with a lot of history, this is a place in Harlem where people like Malcolm X or Red Fox or Billie Holiday used to congregate here. So I'm honored to be in Harlem and celebrate Black culture as well as a Black Jewish woman. So I am multicultural. I identify and celebrate and embrace all those identities at Tsion Cafe. So if you are in the New York area, whenever you're in New York, come visit us at Tsion Cafe, 763 St. Nicholas Avenue. If you're not around, purchase Gursha so we can write more books. And let's just embrace one another, celebrate, and give thanks for the little things that we have. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. And now we'll open up for Q&A from the audience. And I just want to let you all know that tomorrow you will receive this recording. You will also receive the link where you can buy the book, the link of Tsion Café, and we will make sure that you get all the information necessary. And I think I'll pass now to Sebastian if you want to read some questions that came in.
Yeah, there were some questions that were already answered by participants and many nice comments. Uh, Beejy, you are welcome to read, or we will send you the chat so you can also read later what people are saying. Um, uh, First question that came is there a discussion guide for the book? Is it in paperback? And if not, when will it be in paperback?
Said again.
Sorry?
If it's in paperback, you said?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's if the first question is if there is a discussion guide and if it will be available in paperback at some point.
I don't know. I can't answer that.
Okay. Um,
It's a cookbook. Why would there be a discussion guide? It's a cookbook.
well,
Even
but
though
there is
there's,
also a lot of stories,
oh,
actually.
absolutely. And I'm enjoying them tremendously and I'm grateful for them. But it's a cookbook. It weighs a ton and it's wonderful. The photos are grand. I'm loving it.
Lovely. Lisa, please write a review on Goodreads if you don't mind.
Where?
Goodreads.
Will do. Will do. It's
Yes,
fabulous. It's
thank
fabulous.
you.
I do have a question. Do you still speak Amharic at home?
Okay, I come from the northern part of Ethiopia called Tigray, and I speak Tigrinya. In
Okay.
Ethiopia, there is over 87 languages. I do speak Tigrinya, I do speak Amharic, and I do speak Hebrew a little bit, and some English.
You're very fluent.
Thank you. I see a question here from Diane. Are there many Ethiopian Jews in New York? And which communities in the US have substantial numbers of Ethiopian Jews?
I would say people are scattered throughout the US. There is a big community here in New York, mainly in Brooklyn. But in the beginning, in the early 2001, 2, 3, there was Central Place in Harlem when I formed Bina. So we used to do different activities throughout the city. But now, is so many years later, people get married, have a family, open a business. So people are all over the US. I would say it's about a couple of thousands, about 7,000 Ethiopian Jews in America, and is always growing.
Thank you. And the next question, if Sudan has a Jewish community, and did you form any relationship with Sudanese Jews while you were staying there?
I wouldn't say no, not really, because at that point, to be honest, we had to conceal our Jewishness. But I know there are Jews from Sudan, and so forth. So I don't know much, but I would love to connect and explore Jewish diaspora. Yes.
Thank you. And I see a lot of comments congratulating you also on how you spoke today and also in general. I'm not sure if this question refers to the same, but I'll rephrase it a little bit. But have you been back in Ethiopia since you left?
Yeah, I went back to Ethiopia about 2003 or 4. That was my first time. Literally, I was just a tourist. Lucky I speak the languages, but my family, everybody is back in Israel. But it was very empowering to go back and visit the different villages and towns that my ancestor left. Yeah.
And is there still a Jewish community in Ethiopia?
Not that I know of per se, but I know the beauty of Jewish Ethiopian Jewish as a whole. There is always groups that will say converted to Christianity 300-400 years ago and now claiming Judaism, like the Moranos or the Anusim or what have you. So there is always groups there that want to make Aliyah, but I think with the Israeli authorities is giving them a bit of hard time. But yeah, Ethiopia is full of Jews that, hide themselves or anything like it, but now claiming Judaism. Yeah, it's a whole process on its own.
Thank you. And the next question is from Sue. If there are any Ethiopian Jews who moved to Israel and then went back to Ethiopia?
Oh, quite a lot. Yeah. Yeah, and they are leading with a lot of business opportunities and facilitating between the Ethiopian and the Israeli government. Yeah, quite a lot. I have quite a few cousins that started a whole business of flowers and tomatoes and strawberries and stuff like that. Yeah.
Very
It's only
interesting.
4 hours flight from Ethiopia to Israel, and there is a everyday flight, so it's convenient.
Okay, so they kind of live in both places or
I would say both, mainly
one?
in Ethiopia. I don't know,
And
but
then,
yeah. Mhm.
okay. Very interesting. And we have a comment from Karen who says that she's visited Tsion Café and can attest to delicious food and warm atmosphere.
Oh, lovely. Thank you, Karen.
And I also see I think there were other comments. I've read your book. Was the cafe always kosher? And if not, when did it become kosher? Or is it kosher?
It is kosher for the past 2 years. We were not kosher before that. We changed right a little bit after October 7th because of the different attacks that we encounter. If it's swastika and graffiti all over the front doors and stuff like that, we had to make a shift of fully accepting our Jewishness and becoming fully kosher. And the easiest way was to be fully kosher, being plant-based, which is a lot more easier to do. Yeah, so yeah, we encounter anti-Semitism, hate for no reason, just for our affiliation or being Israeli or being Jews.
Yeah, and I guess especially with having Tsion in the name of the coffee shop, that
Yeah, adding
the,
more to the fuel.
these days must not be easy. I'm just reading, there is a long comment from Marion. So Marion, if you want to unmute and share, you're welcome. Because it takes me time to read and to see if
Yes, okay. Can you hear me?
yes.
I'm sorry it's not a question, but I had an experience as an Anglo living in Israel in the early 1980s. I agree with what Beejy says. It was very, very difficult for them. I lived in Carmiel in the north of Israel, and Ethiopian newcomers were placed in multi-story buildings, so different from what they were used to in Ethiopia, and it was not natural for them. And I think that there have been some examples of insulting attitudes over the years, which I think most of the younger generation are overcoming. We were told not to adopt families because it would be culturally difficult for them. But my unemployed neighbours suddenly became social workers and went into the apartments to teach the women how to manage a modern city home. For instance, they didn't know what refrigerators were or what they were for. They didn't understand it. And the modern appliances in a home were just totally foreign and new to them. A friend of mine at the time also taught English to immigrant Ethiopian children and found them to be attentive and well behaved. Sheer determination has helped their second and third generations to succeed. And I say kol hakavod. That's it.
Thank you, Marianne. Okay. Yeah,
Thank you.
I lived in Pardes Khana, not in Carmiel. But yeah, imagine for people who have their own farm and not as modern as possible, coming to a new country with different appliances. I'm sure it was shocking and didn't know how to utilize everything efficiently. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing this experience, and thank you, Marion, for your comment. And well, I had one more question I didn't ask while we were speaking, so I just want to leave a couple of more minutes for people if they have questions. Please feel free to put it down. But in the meantime, I just want to ask that in the beginning, when just before we joined, you were saying that it's so interesting that Sigd is an Ethiopian holiday, and why do you think that other communities didn't keep that holiday? Like, what do you think was different in the Ethiopian community that that specific holiday stayed and not it didn't stay in others?
Well, I think the fact that we were still in exile in the diaspora, that kind of drove uh, Ethiopian Jews the yearning for the return, hold on tight to it. But Remember, there are many tradition that been kind of lost with modern Judaism, correct? With halakha, even to the point where if we go to the Book of Jubilees, it's not even part of the canon anymore. Or if you may, the Book of Maccabees 1 and 2 was lost by the Jewish diaspora, and Ethiopian Jews preserved Maccabees 1 and 2, and then we have the Hanukkah story. So there is a lot of stuff that we hold on to it. But as there is always an evolution, changes, but we didn't really change in order to adjust to a way of living. And there is many things like the whole days of 80s and 40 days for male and female when you give birth. A lot of things that kind of modern using, let it go. Oh, it's not relevant. We cannot do it. But we adhere to that. Or, there is endless. But I can tell you about Sigd. That kind of hold on tight because we were still in exile. We could not let go. We still wanted to rebuild the temple and live among our brothers and sisters in harmony in the land of honey and milk.
And is that now an official holiday in Israel, right?
Yeah,
Or
since 2008. Yeah,
so
it's
it's
official.
actually interesting that even though in Israel, where people are already in Israel, uh, it became an accepted and national holiday.
Yeah, but there is no temple, Dora.
That's true.
We're waiting.
There's always more to yearn for.
We said, "B'shana ba'a b'Yerushalayim habnuya." We want that temple to rebuild, right? Hopefully. So that's our sight, yearning for the rebuild of the temple and unity of Am Israel, God willing.
And okay, I see Faith.
Yes. I just
Yes.
wanted to tell her that being that we're not too anxious for another temple to be built because it would require animal sacrifice, and we have replaced that with prayer. I don't want to see any more animal sacrifice. Of course, I'm not a vegetarian, strictly speaking. I eat chicken and turkey and stuff, but I don't eat any red meat. But I don't want to see any more animals sacrificed.
Well, we don't have to sacrifice as long as we have one unifying temple that all can come and worship. I think that would be good for all.
From your mouth to God's ears.
Amen, amen.
Amen, amen.
So I think that will be a beautiful ending for today's talk. Thank you so much, BJ, for
Thank
being
you,
here
BJ.
and sharing, and thank you everyone for being here, of course, and your interest and curiosity. And we encourage you to buy Beejy's book and support her, and go to Tsion Café and learn about Ethiopian Jewish food and Ethiopian Jewry, and cook the delicious foods that she shares in her book. So we'll give you all information about that tomorrow. And thank you so much, BJ. It was so lovely to have you.
Thank
My
you,
pleasure.
BJ. Happy
Be well.
Thanksgiving.
You too, whomever
Everybody.
everybody, give thanks.
And happy Sigd
Yes.
Happy
in
Be well.
retrospect. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Have a wonderful
Bye,
rest of
Dora.
the day, and happy Thanksgiving for all of you who celebrate. And we'll see you next time on Sunday. Join us for a virtual tour of Jewish Istanbul.
Ooh.
That's our next event coming up. Thank you, everyone. Bye. Bye, BJ, and bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Sebastian.